Which fighters in the heavyweight division in boxing could beat Moses Itauma? Let's rank them all in a tier list. So as you can see right here, we have got 100% they beat Moses Itauma. They are the fighters that Moses Itauma stands no chance against right now. We're not talking about Moses Itauma when he eventually reaches his prime. We're talking about Moses Itauma as he is right now. You've then got 75% chance of beating Moses Itauma. These are the fighters that will likely beat him, but there is always that chance with Moses Itauma's power and with how tricky he can be that Itauma could pull off the victory. We have then got a 50% chance. So these are fights that are split down the middle. 50-50 toss-up fights. We have then got 25% chance of beating Moses Itauma. Now 25% means that Moses Itauma likely will win the fight, but there is always that possibility that Itauma might get ironed out by a shot or potentially could get outboxed if the game plan isn't correct. Lastly, we've got 0% chance. These are the opponents that Moses Itauma will absolutely annihilate. They stand literally 0% chance of beating Moses Itauma right now. So we've got a very interesting matchup. Straight off the bat, we've got Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Now, Daniel Dynamite Dubois, Triple D as they call him. Can't believe he got away with actually calling himself that, but hey ho. He is coming off of a loss against Alexander Usyk, but before that Usyk loss, which was devastating by the way, the knockout, and he quit by the way in that one as well. Don't want to hear anything else. He looks at his dad must have shook his head. And Daniel just said, nah, don't want it, mate. I've had enough now. He's battered me for basically every single round. So, yeah, we've got that quitting. But in the same breath, before that Usyk fight, he was on a generational run, Daniel Dubois. And there is no stopping, there's no denying that. He was on a generational run. He stopped Filip Hergovic, who's got a granite chin. Oh, yes, it was a stoppage because of cuts. Still stopped Filip Hergovic, and that is on his resume for life. He stopped Big Baby Miller, Jarrell Miller, Mr. Pharmacy, Mr. I will take everything under the sun and think I'm a Mr. Olympia athlete despite the fact that I look like a pudding. He stopped him. And yes, it was late and it was very, very out of shape, Jarrell Big Baby Miller, but he stopped him. And then obviously there was that devastating knockout of Anthony Joshua at Wembley Stadium in front of, how many people was it? 110,000 people in the end, something stupid like that. Absolutely mental KO, and he proved that he can hang with the very, very top guys in the division. How does he get on with Itauma though? Now, I would like to say that he beats Itauma 100%, but given that Moses Itauma is a southpaw, he is a tricky southpaw, and he matches Daniel Dubois for athleticism, for speed, for punch power, and everything, I don't quite think it is as cut and dried as 100% Daniel Dubois will definitely beat Moses Itauma. There is also that question about his heart, and with that question around his heart, if it's not going his way against the very, very fresh and young Moses Itauma, he has tendencies to quit. I'm going to favour Daniel Dubois, but it's not 100%. So I'm going to stick him 75% chance of beating Moses. Now, Deontay Wilder is next on the list. You can say Wilder is washed all you want. He is. He's coming off of 2 losses, devastating losses. One against Joseph Parker, where he just could not find the target. Number 2, he was coming off against Zhilei Zhang, which was an absolutely devastating knockout. He then had a comeback fight against Hendon that he made look very, very difficult. He should have had Hendon out of there probably within the first 2, maybe 3 rounds. He made it look very, very difficult. And to be honest with you, Wilder's just finished. I know he's going to have a fight with Usyk, but that's just going to be one-sided. Where do I put Wilder? Well, I can't put him in 0% because there is always that possibility with Deontay Wilder. He's got that one-hitter quitter. If he lands on any heavyweight clean in the division, it is night-night. But it's not a 50-50 fight. It's a 25% chance. Moses will likely win. He's just got to stay out of the way of that big right hand. Ajit Kabayel, next on the list. Now, this one's a very, very tricky one. Kabayel, the level of opposition that he's fought isn't top tier other than Zhilei Zhang. But the way that he wore Zhilei Zhang down and stopped a man as big as Zhang, as strong as Zhang, as thick as Zhang. I mean, Zhang's head is literally the size of a frigging Mini Cooper. Maybe even bigger. It might be a Ford Transit. He's got an absolutely massive melon on him. And it wasn't the melon that he fell from, it was the body shots. But that just showed the game plan from Kabayel and the ability to put together a game plan, not just him, but his team as well, to get the job done. I think that given Kabayel is almost being the fan favourite for an Usyk fight, and a lot of people are picking Kabayel to beat Alexander Usyk or give him a very, very good test, I think he is also in the same bracket as Daniel Dubois. I think there is a 75% chance there. The thing that makes me think that he doesn't 100% beat Moses Itauma right now is just the fact that he hasn't really fought anybody of the same style, of the same speed, and as fresh as Moses. So for that, yeah, 75% chance. Now, Filip Hrgović is a fight that I definitely want to see against Moses Itauma. This should be his next opponent by right after Jermaine Franklin. Moses against Hrgović is going to be incredible. Hrgović will take him rounds. As I said, Hrgovic's chin is made of pure concrete. Concrete mixed in with steel. Like, you could build a skyscraper with the foundation being Filip Hrgovic's chin. He will take Moses Itauma rounds, and he is a very underrated boxer. The only problem with Hrgović is that he fights in third gear constantly. He never really comes out of that third gear and turns it up. And that's why, at the very, very top level against Daniel Dubois, he's fallen short. I think it's a 50-50 fight. So why is it a 50-50 fight? I think it's going to be interesting because Moses Itauma's never really been put to the test. Hrgović would put him to the test. But in the same breath, if Moses Itauma is as good as we think he is, which I think he is, I think that he probably closes out a points victory on Filip Hrgović. If he knocked him out, God, send this kid to the moon, honestly. Now, next on the list, Fabio Wardley. This is a very interesting one for Fabio Wardley. So, as of right now, after that Joseph Parker win, Fabio Wardley, everybody's singing his praises. Everybody thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread. But we saw against Justice Huni that Fabio Wardley sometimes can come a little bit unstuck when somebody is outboxing him because of that lack of experience, really, in Fabio Wardley's career. He came from that white collar scene, which has been heavily publicised. 0 amateur fights, all white collar, then into the heavyweight division. Had a life and death first fight with Fraser Clark, which some people did think he actually lost. And then obviously lost every single round against Huni and got out of jail with that one-hit quitter, almost Deontay Wilder-esque. Now, he is fresher. He is probably a better boxer. And he is just all around more of a complete package than Deontay Wilder is at this point in Wilder's career. So he doesn't go in that 25% chance list. But I'm going to throw a massive hot take out here, in that I think that Fabio Wardley has a 50% chance of beating Moses Itauma. I think Itauma's speed, his athleticism, the fact that he is a very tricky southpaw, and the fact that he maybe matches Fabio Wardley for power, for me, he goes in that 50% chance list. Let me know if you agree with that one in the comments, though, because that, for me, could be a bit of a hot take at this point in Moses Itauma's career. Now, next on the list, we have got Makhmudov. Last fight out, fought Dave Allen, beat Dave Allen, but there was points in that fight where Dave Allen had him on wobbly legs, and on a different day, Allen could have maybe closed out the win there, but he didn't. And Makhmudov showed that he is a little bit above that sort of European level where Dave Allen is right now. So, I don't think it's 50-50. I don't quite think it's a 25% chance either, even though he carries a lot of power, Makhmudov. You know what you're going to get with him. And I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with the pace of Moses Itauma. And the fact that he also struggled a little bit with Dave Allen, it's a 0% chance for me. 0% chance. Now, the next one on the list is Efe Ajagba. Efe Ajagba, brilliant draw, as bad as it sounds, against Martin Bakole, and a Martin Bakole who had a full training camp, not a Martin Bakole that Joseph Parker beat and knocked out, who had like 24 hours notice or whatever it was. It wasn't Efe Ajagba, it was a Martin Bakole who was, he'd had a full fight camp. And Ajagba managed to get the draw. He didn't really engage much. It was a good game plan from Ajagba. But in the same breath, other than Martin Bakole, who has Efe Ajagba fought? Who is he? He's probably got worse of a resume than Moses has right now in terms of actual caliber of opposition. So for me, I think I'm going to stick him in 25% chance, just because he showed against Bacoli that he can fight on the outside. He can be a little bit tricky. He can be, a little bit elusive at times as well. And, he can put together a game plan. But it's a low chance. I think, Moses Itauma eventually catches up with him, maybe mid to late in the fight. I think he catches up with him, and eventually I think Moses flattens him personally. Now, Del Boy Derek Chisora, very, very big name in the UK scene. A bit of a cult hero, really, in the United Kingdom. Where does he sit? Where does he sit in terms of beating Moses Itauma? Now, although Del Boy has definitely improved as he's got older, which is mad to say for someone with the style of Derek Chisora, it's a 0% chance for me. I think that fight goes exactly the same way as a fight, the fight that Dillian Whyte had with Moses Itauma, when I think Itauma goes in there and absolutely blasts him out within 3 rounds. That's sad to say for me, because I am a massive Del Boy fan. But yeah, 0% chance of beating Moses. Moses absolutely dominates Del Boy. Now, the next fighter on the list is none other than Frank Sanchez. Now, Frank Sanchez was viewed as a very, very good prospect a few years ago. He was viewed as a potential boogeyman in the heavyweight division because he does carry a serious amount of power. Now, that hype has died down just a little bit, especially after the Ajit Kabayel loss. He basically showed that there was a lot of holes in his game there. Simply put, Ajit Kabayel backed him up quite confidently, quite often in the fight, and then he stopped him with bodywork. What I also have seen from Frank Sanchez, not just against the likes of Ajit Kabayel, but against a few opponents, when he is pushed back by his opponents, when he cannot work them out, he tends to get stuck on the ropes or in the corner, and he also tends to have a high guard, a very, very high guard, leaving his body open, which is exactly what Ajit Kabayel exploited in their fight. Now, against Moses Itauma, I can see a stoppage for Moses Itauma in a very similar way to how he stopped Dillian Whyte. Moses is a master of fast feet, fast hands. He will come in with a jab to the body. He will then come backwards. He will then throw a left hook. Maybe even as Frank Sanchez is throwing one of his wild right hands, Itauma could catch him with a right hook or even a straight left down the pipe. Now, for me, I think he stands more of a chance than Deontay Wilder and F.A. Ajagba, marginally. And for that, I think that he goes in that 25% chance. Now, the next person on the list there is Jalanov. And why is he on this list? It is because he is top 10. I think he's 5 and 6 in, I want to say, the IBF and maybe the WBO, but don't quote me on that. And he is also, I think he's number 11 ranked in the world in the WBC. He's also won 16 fights, 14 by KO. But there is no fights of any sort of magnitude in there. He hasn't fought at the top of the division. His resume is arguably worse. Probably, in fact, no, not even arguably. His resume is worse than Moses Itauma's right now. And I haven't seen anything from Jalanov which would suggest that he could beat Moses Itauma. So, 0% chance of that man beating Moses. Moving on to Justice Hooney. So, Hooney beat Fabio Wardley in every single round and then got caught with an absolute Hail Mary shot from the heavens that put him down and put him out. The first loss of Justice Hooney's career. Justice Hooney, though, is arguably one of the top 3 technical boxers in the heavyweight division. He is also the fighter that's got the possibility of coming back from that defeat and putting that right, getting himself back to the top of the division. He doesn't pack much of a punch, Justice Hooney. He is very much a boxer. He will try and outbox Moses Itauma in this fight, which could be very, very difficult. I don't think that he puts up as much of a fight as Fabio Wardley or Filip Hrgović would. I don't think he will be able to get the respect of Moses Itauma because the punch power isn't quite there. But there is a possibility that he could outbox Moses Itauma if the game plan is absolutely perfect. Now, for that, he's going to go 50% chance of beating Moses Itauma right now. Next person on the list are Lawrence Okolie. the most boring heavyweight on the planet. You know, this guy, honestly, his style's almost unwatchable at times. Lawrence could quite literally put an insomniac to sleep. He is that boring of a fighter. His grab and hold, or his jab and hold, his punch and hold style, if you can call it a style, is just, it's terrible. It's terrible. Now, that being said, it's very, very effective. You know, you don't become a two-weight world champion if you count Bridgerweight as a championship for no reason. You know, it is an effective style. And although I'm not a fan, as you can tell, of Lawrence Okolie, I do think that he could potentially give Moses Itauma some serious problems. You know, Itauma's game is always in and out, in and out. He's not a back foot fighter, but you know what I mean? He's a counter puncher, he's a boxer puncher. If Lawrence Okolie grabs a hold of Itauma continuously in the fight, I genuinely think that this could be a 12-0 win for Lawrence Okolie. I don't see him knocking out Itauma at any point in the fight, but I think it could be a very, very similar fight to the Isaac Chamberlain fight that Lawrence Okolie had all of them years ago. So I'm going to actually give Lawrence Okolie a very good chance of beating Moses Itauma, because styles make fights, and his style is potentially the Lawrence Okolie, sorry, it's possibly the Moses Itauma deterrent, let's say. So he is going to go at 75%, and that might be a hot take. Jared Anderson. Now, Jared Anderson got absolutely annihilated by Martin Bucoli. The guy, he shouldn't really be a heavyweight for me, Jared Anderson. He's got zero power. The pillow fists, honestly. He literally couldn't turn a light switch out, never mind an opponent. Like, he couldn't turn the lights off. You know, he's that sort of less powerful than the rest of the division. He's got very, very good boxing ability, but again, I do think that because he is the only real sort of up-and-coming American fighter, I do feel like he gets a lot more praise than he probably deserves, to be fair. So I'm going to stick Jared Anderson a 0% chance. I just don't think that he has any chance of beating somebody like Moses Itauma at all. So he's at 0%. Kerbrat Pulev, coming off of a loss where he got knocked out, very, very devastating knockout loss in his last fight against Gassiev, and he's just old, man. He's about 172 years old now. Yes, he's been in there and he's been around the block. He's been in with some massive, massive names. He's been in with Klitschko. He has been in with Anthony Joshua. You know, he's now been in there with Murat Gassiev. He's just too old, and he's just going to get absolutely pummeled by Moses Itauma. He's going to be too quick, Itauma. He's going to be too quick, too strong, too powerful, and Pulev ain't going to be able to keep up, not one bit. Next up, we've got Lenny Apero, an exciting Cuban southpaw fighter, but again, once it comes to the experience levels, very, very, very poor resume up to now. His best opponent was his last one, which is Jordan Thompson, who, although was 6'7", I think, he was coming off of a loss already to Jai Opataya down at cruiserweight, so he was moving up to the heavyweight division. Apero did beat him. He's unbeaten as well, Lenny Apero. I can't call him a prospect because he's 33, I think, so he's not really a prospect. But, you know, that Cuban southpaw style that Lenny Apero has, you know, that could be a very, very good matchup against Moses Itauma. I think he probably stands more of a chance than the guys in that 0% chance list there, via very, very marginal amount. Does he stand as much of a chance against Deontay Wilder? I think so. I think he's very similar to how I brought down F.A. Jagba against Moses Itauma. So I'm going to stick him in that 25% chance list. Michael Hunter, again, another fighter on the list here who is a former cruiserweight coming up to heavyweight. Michael Hunter has been in there. He got a draw against Alexander Povetkin, which is a very, very good draw on his resume there. But other than that, I've not really seen much from Michael Hunter that could suggest he could beat Moses Itauma. Don King, if he's still with Don King, which I think he is, certainly ain't going to let this man go anywhere near Moses Itauma until he has made his money off of Michael Hunter. I think Michael Hunter will get completely outboxed. Oh, Hunter has actually been in there with Martin Bucoli as well. That's another big name. I forgot about that one because it was so many years ago. He did actually stop Martin Bucoli, but apparently Bucoli had a shoulder injury, which stopped him from realistically utilising his full strength in that fight. Regardless, big name on the resume. I just don't think Michael Hunter stands any chance at all of beating good old Moses Itauma. Now, Martin Bakole. I am not a big fan of Martin Bakole. Not a big fan at all of Martin Bakole. I think his preparation is always terrible. He always looks like a Christmas pudding when he comes into the ring. You know, he's got a body style of a bag of sick or a melting snowman. He really doesn't take the sport of boxing seriously, although in sparring he has knocked every single fighter on the planet out, including the man that is Alexander Usyk. So do we take that into consideration? Of course we bloody don't. Martin Bakole, I think, you know, we saw against F.A. Jagba, when somebody doesn't come forward and engage, he can be outboxed quite easily. Jared Anderson could have employed them tactics against him, but wasn't good enough. But Martin Bakole does carry a lot of power. So, Martin Bakole, plodding, powerful heavyweight. I think he falls in the same category as Deontay Wilder. Yeah, he's not really got much of a chance of beating Moses right now, but he's always got that chance of landing one big haymaker or a big shot that could potentially put Moses out. So he's going in that 25% chance. Itauma likely wins that fight for sure. Now, the next fighter on the list is Richard Riakporhe. Another former cruiserweight coming up to the heavyweight division. Has looked good since he stepped up, but it's quite an easy one, this. You know, Chris Billam-Smith beat him in a very, very, very boring fight down at cruiserweight. 0% chance, although he does look very, very strong, very powerful at heavyweight, and he almost looks like a better fighter than he did previously. I still think that Moses absolutely schools Richard Riakporhe at this point in time anyway. Riakporhe still needs to adjust to the weight a little bit. Moses is a natural heavyweight. So yeah, 0% chance. Murat Gassiev is the next one. Again, another, I believe, former cruiserweight fighter, Gassiev. I will double check that. But in terms of Gassiev, he's got a very, very good knockout win over Khabrat Pulev in his last fight. He is a very, very dangerous fighter. He does carry a lot of power. We have seen that in the past from him. In terms of Gassiev, how likely is he to beat Moses Itauma, though? I'm not entirely sure that he puts up any more of a chance of a Lenia Perro or even an F.A. Jagba or a Frank Sanchez. So do you know what? I'm going to stick him in at 25% chance of beating Moses Itauma there. Next up on the list, now this one might be a little bit of an interesting one. We have got Richard Torres Jr., an up-and-coming fighter from across the pond. Very, very similar in terms of the height that this guy is getting to Moses Itauma. He is also undefeated. He is viewed as one of the futures of the heavyweight division right now. But in terms of experience, in terms of being in there, being on the big stage, and also been in there with decent opponents, he stands absolutely zero chance, in my honest opinion, of beating Moses Itauma. I think Itauma would go out there and stop him within 2 rounds. So 0% chance. There's a lot building up in that 0% chance queue right now, isn't there? Let me know if any of them are wrong, by the way. And we're at the serious contenders end of the division now, where we have got Tyson Fury as the next pick. Yes, he shouldn't be on this list. Well, he wouldn't have been on this list if I didn't record it today, because he was retired for the 175th time. But he's coming out of retirement. So how would he match up against Moses Itauma? Tyson Fury is elite. He is one of the best heavyweights of all time. Love him or hate him. And I am not a Tyson Fury fan. His style, the way that he moves for a guy who is so big, the fact that under that Kronk style and Sugar Hill, he has actually, been able to punch now rather than having little pillow fists. Tyson Fury is exceptional. Now, will the little bit of a layoff that he had and the back-to-back losses to Alexander Usyk right now cause him a problem? Absolutely not. He gave Usyk his toughest fight. Let's be honest with ourselves. So, for me, I think right now, at this point in Itauma's career, 0 chance of beating Tyson Fury. Fury goes that top 100% beats Itauma Q. Alexander Usyk, we don't have to say anything about Alexander Usyk. At this point in Itauma's career, Absolutely not. Give him 2 or 3 years' time. If Usyk's still around, I'll have a different opinion on it if Itauma continues the way that he has been continuing at the moment. But Usyk, it'd be no shock to anybody. He's going in 100%. He 100% beats Moses Itauma right now. Now, Zhile, Big Bang Zhang, the big man from China. This should be an interesting one, this. Zhang's slow, but he's a better boxer, than most of the guys on this list. He is quite underestimated as a boxer, but we have seen glaringly obvious holes in Big Bang Zhang's game. The way that he got stopped by Ajit Kabayel with the continuation of body shots, the fact that he gasses out towards the end of fights, the fact that he is such a big unit of a man that it is very, very difficult to put a dent in him. And he's also difficult for him to move. Very difficult for him to move. He's huge. Getting across the ring must take him about 15 minutes, and he must exert so much energy. But again, he's got that big punch. He's got that huge, huge, huge left hand. He is an absolute tank of a man. I don't think it would be fair to give him less of a chance than 75% at this point in time of beating Moses Itauma. I think he would undoubtedly go into that fight as the favourite. 1,000,000% go into the fight as the favourite. It is just, can he keep up with Itauma's pace? That is the only thing. I think Itauma's got a 25% chance of beating Zhang right now. Give it, again, another year or so, maybe another couple of fights at the top level of the sport, or top level at the heavyweight division. Maybe it's a different case. Maybe it is a 50-50 fight. But right now, I'll pick Zhile Zhang. So I'm going to give him a 75% chance just because of the glaringly obvious flaws in that man's game. But that is it. That is all the fighters. I want to know from you guys, do you agree with the list? Would you have put fighters in a different position? Do you think I've maybe overhyped Moses Itauma a little bit here? And if we did this list or this tier list in like 2 years' time, is it Moses Itauma beats everybody on the list? Or are there still fighters who he would come up against and get beaten? Let me know in the comments. For more boxing content, hit that subscribe button. And as always, a like, a favourite, a save, a share, a repost, anything that you can do to help the channel out and get this pushed to many, many people is all appreciated. Peace out.